Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Tigers Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Chris Schulte. If I sound a little bit happy, well, you know what? Detroit did something over the weekend that they haven't done in 30 years. So, actually 30 years and a month. So, yeah, you know what? I'm a little bit pleased. I'm very happy with what transpired over the weekend. And I kind of called it a little bit when it came to the Cincinnati series. So that's another good thing. Detroit has 70 wins, courtesy of a 3-game sweep in Los Angeles. Now, the Tigers haven't slept the Angels in Anaheim in 30 years. August of 1993 was the last time they did it. They pulled it off this weekend. Now, a lot of people will sit there and say, oh, well, Mike Trout's not there for the Angels. And, oh, Shohei Ohtani. You know what? You got to play the games. You got to play the games. Guess what? Matt Manning's not here for Detroit. Riley Green's not here for Detroit. Casey Mize is still recovering from Tommy John surgery. Spencer Turnbull is a shell of what he was and still toiling in AAA. Austin Meadows hasn't been with the team most of the year. You don't hear me complaining. Oh, well, we would have won if we had. You would have won if you'd played better. So there you go. Let's go into the injury report real quick. The biggest update is Riley Green. Of course, he is out for the rest of the year. He is not going to be coming back. He's going to go see Dr. ElAttrache. Neil ElAttrache, surgeon to the stars is what Dan Dickerson called him over the weekend. To give you an idea, he's the same guy that did Aaron Rodgers' Achilles surgery. So he's going to see him probably today. And he's done for the year. Which, you know what? I kind of figured that when he went on the IL in the first place. I'm like, okay, let's assume it takes 10 days to heal. This was on September 7th. Sorry, September 8th. Actually, I believe they put him on the IL on the 9th. So let's assume that from the 9th, 10 days, that's the 19th. We're not there yet, but that's going to come up tomorrow. All right. So he does what he needs to do, and if they make it retroactive to the 8th, then he's off the end. Then he's going to start a rehab assignment today. Possibly. But during that 10 days, he's still got to deal with I mean, okay, he can do leg work, he can do running, he can do his plyometrics, things like that. But his arm work has to wait until later on during the process. So at that point, let's assume, all right, he's going to start a rehab assignment on Friday when there's 3 games left in the season for the Toledo Mud Hens. So he'll get 3 games and then come back to the Tigers for 6 games. There was just no point. There was really no point. You would have had to rush him to do that. He's clearly not in a position to do that, as evidenced by the fact that he's going to see this Dr. ElAttrache. And you know what? You got to make the smart moves here. You got to make the smart choices here, especially with somebody like Riley Green, who has the potential to be a huge foundation piece, not just a cornerstone, but a foundation piece, like a cornerstone plus other things as part of that foundation, much like Spencer Torkelson has the ability to be, much like Kerry Carpenter has the ability to be, much like Tarek Skubal has the ability to be. Okay? Detroit is putting pieces together to try to assemble a long-term winning baseball team. Now, for me, long term means something like the Yankees, where they. This is the first time they've missed the playoffs in years. Look, I grew up a Red Wings fan. I'm used to 25 straight years of making the playoffs. That's what I want from my Detroit Tigers. I don't think that's ever going to happen. We might go 5 or 6 years in a row and then miss a year or two and then come back 5 or 6 more years. But I don't want to see one of these teardowns and rebuilds that take 6 years, 7 years, like what we've seen in Detroit. Detroit hasn't been to the playoffs since 2014. That's way too long. I don't want to see another rebuild like that. I just don't. I really don't. So Detroit wins 3 in LA. And Tarek Skubal pitches brilliantly on Friday night. Sawyer Gipson-Long is really, really opening people's eyes. Granted, it's been the Angels and the White Sox that he's faced. He'll face Oakland later this week. And look, Oakland has just been an absolute house of horrors in the regular season for the Tigers. Not so bad in the playoffs. Hello, Game 5, 2012, 2013. So not so bad in the playoffs. But during the regular season, Detroit just cannot win there. Detroit just can't beat Oakland at all in the regular season. This is a bad Oakland team. This is a 100-loss Oakland team that Detroit's going to face for 4 games starting on Thursday in Oakland. And they came into Detroit and just absolutely beat the daylights out of the Tigers. Oh, well, it took them extra innings to win the first game. Yeah. Then they came out and hung 12 on us in the second game. And yes, we absolutely obliterated them in the third game. But by that point, the series was over. So it really didn't matter, did it? This is a team that Detroit should just beat down hard. And they're not going to do it. Because first things first, they got to go through the Dodgers. And, the Dodgers, yes, they clinched on Saturday night. But they're still playing for best record in the National League. And I think they're just a few games behind Atlanta for that. And Atlanta might own the tiebreaker there. I don't really know, because Atlanta did actually, I think, go out and if they didn't sweep the Dodgers in LA earlier this month, they took 3 out of 4. So, for those of you who said that Jake Rogers isn't going to hit, you're probably right. For average, he's got 19 homers. He hit a homer, 2 homers yesterday, hit a homer on, I want to say Friday, maybe Saturday. So he had 3 homers in that series against the Angels. Spencer Torkelson, good luck making it to 30 if you keep playing the way you played the last 2 days. But you know what? I will take Kerry Carpenter with 20 home runs, Spencer Torkelson with 20 home runs, Jake Rogers with 20 home runs, Spencer Torkelson with almost 30 home runs, Jake Rogers with 20 home runs, which he will get to. He's at 19. I think within the next 13 games, he can hit 1 more home run. Torque's got to hit 2 and he'll get to 30. Now all Jake Rogers needs to do is learn how to hit for average. And I don't necessarily mean he's got to hit 300. He doesn't even have to hit 260. I'd be happy with Jake Rogers hitting 240 and giving me 20 homers a year. I would take that every day of the week and twice on Sundays. And I'm sure AJ Hinch would as well. Because that then means that you've got other players around him offensively where that 240 isn't a weakness. Because now other managers have to sit there and go, well, yeah, he's hitting 240, but he's got 20 homers. So we can't really pitch him the same way we would pitch another guy hitting 240. You know, if Riley Green can stay healthy, and if Spencer Torkelson can start getting that average up, I don't want Spencer Torkelson hitting 300. I want him hitting 270. Give me 270 with 30 home runs every year. I'll take that. Thank you. Oh, well, he's the number 1 overall draft pick. He needs to hit. No, he doesn't. He needs to do exactly what he's doing, which is hitting the ball for extra base power with authority. And when he can't do that, take the single, take your walk, hit for average, 270, 280, 30 homers a year, 100 RBIs a year. Thank you very much. Because Kerry Carpenter is right there with another 290 batting average and 30 homers a year and 100 RBIs. Let's not forget Miguel Cabrera is done after this year. So there's an opening for another bat. Now, whether that's from in the organization, whether it be a Colt Keith or a Justin Henry Malloy or a Kerry Carpenter, there's room for another bat. So you bring somebody in that can provide the same type of that same type of punch, not necessarily 290, 270, 30 homers. You get Green hitting 300 with maybe 15 homers a year because he's not a 30 homer guy. So you get Green hitting 300 with 15 to 20 homers. You get Torkelson, Carpenter, and other guy hitting 270 with 30 homers a year each. Jake Rogers hitting 20 homers a year. Parker Meadows doing double-digit duty. Maybe Parker Meadows is the other guy that hits you 30 homers. I don't think so. He doesn't strike me as that type. Matt Vierling certainly isn't the type, but if Matt Vierling can keep hitting around 270, I'm not going to project what Parker Meadows could do because he's only had maybe 100 at bats, if that. So I'm not even going to bother thinking about that. What I am going to absolutely drool over is what could happen with this offense if we have 4 guys hitting 15 homers or better, 4 guys, 3 of them hitting more higher than 270, 1 of them hitting about 240, 250. Yeah, this offense is going to be better next year. So if I sound a little peppy today, it's because what I've seen over the last week and looking at the numbers, this team is actually improving. This team is getting better. This team has won more games already than they did last year and for the whole year. Last year, they were 66 and 96. Right now, they're 70 and 80 something. 70 and what? 83? 82? Not 70 and 79. Although that would be 162 games. So yeah, they're 70 and 79. Now, I don't think they're going to go on this tear and go, 9-0 and get to 500 before they lose the next 4 games and end up finishing 79 and 83. I understand that's not going to happen. But in all honesty, if they can take 1 game this week, 1 game out of the next 7, you got Oakland for 4, The Dodgers for 3. The Dodgers are playing for the best record in the National League. But outside of that, they're not playing for much right now because they've already won the division. They're trying to set their rotation now and keep everybody healthy. Now, I'm not saying that means that they're going to just rest everybody and let Detroit come in and take a series from them. Oh no, I am not that gullible to sit there and say something like that. But I don't think Oakland is going to sweep the Tigers in Oakland this time around. That team that did it in 2021 was a much better team. Detroit can win 1 out of 4 in Oakland. They'll probably get swept out of LA. But if they can win 1 out of the next 7, then they come home. They got 3 against the Royals, who they've beaten up on pretty well this year, and 3 against the Guardians, who they've played pretty well against. I can see them winning 4 out of those 6. You know what? This team could still win 75 games. And then, boy, do I look like a stinking genius. Thank you, Arnie Spanier. So yeah, there's a bit of pep in my step today. For good reason, in my opinion. If you want to get in touch with the podcast, you can at TB Podcast TB Podcast at tweescake.social, tweescake, TWEESE cake.social. That's on Mastodon. At Podcast Tigers on Twitter. Tigers Baseball Podcast at gmail.com. It's the world's longest email address. You can go ahead and email me there. We will show up next week after the culmination of this 10-game, 3-city, 2.5 city road trip. And hopefully we've got good news to talk about, good things to talk about. And until then, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. So like, rate, and review, subscribe. Check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@TB Podcast. Thanks to Anchor for distributing the podcast on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. With that, I am Chris Schulte. I will see you next week. Thanks so much for listening. Go Tigers.